my husband and I became the volunteer directors of inner city development. We're not paid for what we do. When we first came, it was called Inner City Apostolate, and it was run by the Catholic Church. The priest that was running it asked for us to go ahead and take over the organization. We did so on a volunteer basis. That priest that ended up asking us to take over, he gave us great advice. Before I actually moved into the community, I asked him, will people accept us? And his response was, if you're just genuinely yourself, you'll be accepted. Not only accepted, but people will protect you. And that's been true. He said, don't come in trying to do fancy projects that you think the neighborhood needs. People who do that come in and they burn out and they're gone in a year. He said, just don't do anything for a while, just get to know the community. Inner City is going to be celebrating 50 years of service this year. It was established in '68, so it's looked different at different times through those 50 years. But having an emergency food pantry and access to emergency clothing are some of the basics that have been around, pretty much the entire time. We have the sack lunch program outside for people who have been homeless. We do recreation for children. We have a big spring basketball league coming up. We have had after-school education programs. Sometimes it's just doing homework or it's tutoring. This year is the third year of an after-school reading program where we just really concentrate on expanding vocabulary, having field trips that expand experiences. So it's looked differently, but those are some of the basic things that we have addressed. Well, growing up, certainly my parents influenced me. They were active. Father would coach football, and then my mother various times worked at children's programs, a daycare or an orphanage. And then some of the smallest things that your parents do that they don't realize are influential, Whenever we were on a trip, my father, if he saw a box in the middle of the road, would stop the car, get the box out of the middle of the road. And it kind of instilled that idea of thinking of others. I mean, we could get around the box, no problem, but how about who's coming behind you? And so, it was kind of a heavy message in a way by the simplest act. I have to also give credit to Our Lady of the Lake. I have to say, the professors, the nuns that were there were very progressive, and those that are still there continue to be involved in some heavy issues. So they were very influential. The idea of voluntary poverty, seeing the work in poverty, and Marquette being involved in a very poor area, as was Our Lady of the Lake, I wanted to move into a poverty area to be a part of it, not necessarily to be a social work. I don't have social work training other than what I've learned through life and living in this community. Yeah, it can get overwhelming. I can find myself spending hours responding to emails. And I've been a neighbor, right? So people know where to find me. So it does get overwhelming. And probably within the last 6 months, I finally decided I'm going to claim Friday to figure out what I'm going to do with the day. I spend most of my week doing what other people want me to do with my day. We don't find our space of quiet. And as soon as I made that decision, I feel like I could feel the chemistry in my body change. There was a certain level of space. And so I think doing those things is very, very important. And I maintain myself in prayer as well. And I'm very fortunate with serving in public office that I have a very supportive husband. Well, I think some of the elements that are really important in the communication, whether it's individually or if it's in a meeting, is for me and my background is to maintain a loving presence, a real presence, be a good listener, and try to steer things from whatever the root is that you're dealing with. Like here at Inner City, it's a matter of maintaining dignity for the individual. So how do we do that best? How you hold a meeting, you have to, being sensitive to if you need bilingual information. Sí, señor. Al otro puerto.
Muchas gracias.
Okay. Well, one of the people who was helping out with the sack lunches is Martha Rocha Hernandez. I met Martha when she was 8 years old, and she was playing in cardboard boxes across the street in the Alizana Apache courts. So she's a board member now, and so is her husband. Rosa Lopez in the office, I met her when she was 12. She's our administrative assistant. Met her 50 years ago. This is some of the first children that we met. That's a real community. We do that. We celebrate birthdays, and and we're close. There's just relationships in an organization that's going to really sustain itself in spirit and mission. The relationships are most important.